everybody. Welcome to LeAnn Riley's Real Estate Investing Made Simple Club. And I just want to say hi, and I do live interviews with experts and leaders in the real estate investing world nationally. And I'm LeAnn Riley. I'm a real estate broker and a coach, and I lead the Encore investment team of realtors here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And I built a multi-million-dollar portfolio in residential, multifamily, condo development, commercial, and vacation properties. And as a national coach and trainer, I help ambitious people build wealth as real estate investors with my proven profit formula coaching program. And I also provide education, and that's why we're here today. Some education in all the different strategies. And that's with this club, and my YouTube channel too is where you can see some of these interviews. So it's LeAnn Riley Real Estate. So today's topic is fun, and it's how to find off-market deals. Everybody's always wondering about this. So I found somebody that I've known for a long time. And today my guest is Nate Armstrong. You can see him here, and we're going to chat with him in a moment. He's the Investor Relations Chair for Home Invest, and he's in Sarasota, Florida right now. And he's the lead consultant for Social Media Blueprint. And he's coached hundreds of students on real estate investing. He's done over 1,100 real estate deals, and he's been featured on stage with a lot of gurus like Ron LeGrand, Joe McCall, Lou Brown, Dean Graziosi, Mike Wolf, and lots more. And closest to his heart is his wife, Jennifer. And they recently celebrated 11 years together. And they enjoy working as a team to raise their boys. And we're going to talk about teams and what's close to our heart. That's what's important these days anyway. So Nate, I'm so glad you could join us today. I really am.
LeAnn, you're going to make me blush going through all that. So let's have fun.
That's right. And I always start and I share, how do I know you? And, you know, I've known Nate a long time. I started to think back, Nate. You know, I think we met at a networking event probably about 15 years ago. And he was talking investing, and he was finding deals way back then and flipping houses in the Twin Cities market when I first met him. And we were also, over the years, we were both traveling coaches for the same real estate education company. And we've even worked together on some projects over the years. So we know each other well, and we've watched each other travel, you know, our real estate journeys, right? So Nate, what got you excited about real estate in the first place?
Yeah, just to add on to what you said, LeAnn, I'm pretty sure I was like in diapers when you pulled me up to do the Deal Finder boot camp. Remember that?
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that. We did Deal Finder boot camp.
I still have the CDs.
I do too.
Do they make CDs anymore? Well, we had that. So what got me excited? Well, watching. So my dad was a mechanic all of his life. My mom ran a home daycare business, and so like, the whole notion of buying houses and buildings and stuff had never crossed my mind as a youngster. But the one thing that was very clear to me is that my parents kind of accidentally acquired their, I don't want to say wealth, but like they acquired all of their assets through buying real estate kind of accidentally. They bought their primary residence and they worked really hard to pay it off. And then when they got that paid off, they went and bought this farm property, a bunch of land, and they worked really hard and they paid that off. And then they got to go buy a cabin. And now fast forward, like as my parents now, they're just about to hit that retirement age. That's where everything is. It all came from buying these 3 pieces of property that now, give it 15, 20 years, the value is exponentially increased. And so it wasn't like parking their money in the bank that was going to get them to the next level in life. It's the real estate assets that they had. So I had that seed in my head. And then I started watching silly TV shows like Flip This House and it was the rave back 15 years ago. And I got excited. I'm like, I could do that. Like I could find a property. I could make it beautiful. I could sell it. I know I could do that. And so that's how I got initially excited. And then I jumped in and a whole bunch of other things happened, but that's how and why I got into the business.
That's cool. That is cool. So just a couple logistics for the participants. I want to take a poll here and see who's here. So Nate and I know who we're talking to. It's real quick. I'm going to launch it right now. It just asks, what kind of real estate investing interest do you have? Okay. And all you do is make a quickie vote here. There you go. And then we'll know who we're talking to so we can be sure and gear this toward you. Okay.
Sweet. It won't let me vote, but everybody else gets.
You're a panelist. You don't get to vote. He was going to vote. Okay, so it looks like right here, the winner is buy and hold. We got a lot of buy and hold people. We got fix and flippers, how to get started, short-term rentals. You know, this goes to show there's a lot of ways. Now I'm going to share the results and we can see the winner was the buy and holds. But this is who's here on the call today. Little bit of everything. The second one, people are interested in scaling a portfolio. That's second place. And then we got our fix and flippers and our getting started people. So, okay, there you go on our quickie poll. So then tell us, what was your very first real estate deal?
1104 Cook Avenue East, St. Paul, Minnesota.
See, everybody knows their first deal by heart, don't they? Yeah. What was it?
Well, I walked into the property. I remember in the floors, it had wood floors and they were wavy like this, up and down and all busted up and ripped up. And I was scared, but excited. I was scared because I just didn't know how much it was going to cost. It was a category 2 registered vacant building, which in St. Paul, you know, but it's condemned. Like, I didn't know. I was naive. I'm like, yeah, category 2. Yeah. Well, what's the steps for that? Oh, you just got to fix this list of stuff. And I took it on head on, ran into that thing. I don't do that anymore. I like the easier ones now, but I took that one head on. Anyways, hired a general contractor to help me, and we straightened out the floors. We fixed the broken pipes in the place, and the rest is kind of history. But that was my very first deal. I remember it, just like you said, first deal, always you remember those. 1104 Cook Avenue.
You always remember them. And, you know, they always say the first deal is the toughest deal. And, you know, you took on the real monster, right?
Yeah.
A category 2, but you got it done. Did you make money?
Yeah. It wasn't how I intended. I initially intended just to list it and sell it, and it didn't sell for what I needed to sell it for. So we rented it. And then I learned how to run the buy and hold business, which is, I'm so glad that we have so many people that like buy and hold. That's really where God blessed my family. Like the buy and hold side, we figured out a niche there. There are so many more advantages, tax-wise, depreciation, appreciation on the asset. Like we can get into any of those details, but like the buy and hold side is really the way to go if you're in the position to do that.
It is. And so Murphy's Law, as we call it, ended up with you learning then how to be a landlord and how to do that side of it with your very first property.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Learned it, and then got to keep going. And I guess the next phase of real estate investing that hit home for me is when I learned how to stop relying on market deals and start buying off market deals. That was a huge transition. It's really hard to do. It's why a lot of people there's nothing wrong with buying an on-market deal if you've got the right agent that's helping you and you can get the right price. But if you want to get like the good nuggets out there, the gold, off market is the ticket right now. You sell with agents, but try to buy off market if you can find them off market.
Yep. And that's what we're going to ask you about. So is that what you focus on today, is off market deals? Yeah,
almost exclusively. The only exception is some of the auction properties. Because foreclosures were frozen for 2 years, there's a backlog of foreclosures that are coming. They're just starting right now. It was literally just 12 days ago was the first day that banks can start foreclosing again on homeowners. So I'm not wishing doom and gloom on anybody, but in a normal economy, normal housing market, foreclosures happen. They just do. They happen every single month, every year. But for 2 years, for the first time in the world history, as far as I know, at least United States history, the government decided to put a moratorium, a freeze on foreclosures. So for 2 years, no foreclosures. So of course there's going to be a backlog, and it's happening right now. So I buy off market with the exception of auction properties. I'm bidding on a lot of auction stuff right now because they're starting to drop.
Yeah, I've noticed it too. As a realtor, the auction properties I've noticed. Yeah. So, if that's your focus, and the big question we have today is, how do you find these off-market deals?
Yeah. So the simple answer is Facebook ads is the easiest place to do it. Let me actually go a little more granular than that. We're not talking about posting like everybody posts what they had for dinner or pictures with their cousin. We're not talking about that. We're talking about running a direct targeted ad at folks that we think might be our primary candidate to sell a property. And the way that we do that is we have to go in reverse. We have to think about, if we're going to do any kind of marketing in general, we have to think about what is the pain that they have in their life right now? What problem are they waking up in the middle of the night over? And to do that, we have to really be targeted on a niche. So many people, they come into the business, and if they try any kind of marketing in real estate, they go really broad. They take this we buy houses approach, which can work, but this is not targeted enough to get profitable results consistently using social media ads. So LeAnn, you're an expert, you've done marketing for a long time, so you know this, but hyper focus, niche. And so for me, if you're well, Nate, what do you do? I go after my niche in the whole world. And I think that this is really where God put me to serve in the real estate community is I work with landlords who are retiring to sell their property. That's my niche. I'm so good at that because I focus there. And then when I sell properties, if I'm not going to keep it myself, I sell to landlords. I serve that spot. And so when I'm starting to write ads to post on Facebook or occasionally YouTube, I know the exact message that a retiring landlord needs to hear to want to click my ad. I know that they don't want 50 people walking their property to scare off their tenants. I know they don't want to do a bunch of showings. So that's how that works.
They just want somebody to show up who wants to take it off their hands.
Yeah, clean, off market, quiet, don't ruffle the feathers of my tenants.
Yep. One showing, that's it.
Yeah. What, you need an appraisal and an inspection? No, you only get one. but that's it. So, but if you cater to those people, you can get killer deals. I got a beautiful 12-unit building in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, not too far from Minnesota, just 4 or 5 hour drive. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I had a retiring firefighter. He had owned this building. He bought it early in his firefighting career. He's about to retire, but he really didn't want to have any attachments. He didn't want to go over and have to fix toilets and stuff anymore. He had owned this building forever. And when he came to us from our marketing, he said straight out, I do not want to lose any tenants. That's why I'm doing this off market. And I'm like, okay, no problem. He's like, so when we walk through the units, you're an inspector from the city. And I'm like, sir, yes, sir. You know what? I'm not going to open my mouth. How about that? I don't want to have to tell anybody anything. I'll just follow you. He's like, okay, yeah. Okay, cool. So we walked the property. I remember he took us through a bunch of the units, and I literally just kept my mouth shut the whole time. When a tenant would ask me something, I would just point at him. And that was his thing. Consequently, he sold us that property, his price. I didn't have to strong arm negotiate him. His price was $700,000 for this building. Okay. Now watch this. I put that property under contract. I was going out to get the money for it because I'm like, this is a really good deal. And then while I was calling people to raise the money for it, one of the guys that I called, he's one of my New York guys, he said, hey, Nate, well, I really want a building too. How about instead of me, investing, how about I just buy it? And I'm like, well, how much would you give me? He's like, I'll give you 800 right now. And I'm like, well, I got it for 7. He'll give me 8. And I don't have, okay, sign me up. So I gave him, so I gave him the building. He closes on it. He's got it for 3 months. He calls me. He's like, I don't like that tenant base. Too much headache for me, too many turnovers. And I'm like, so what do you want to do? He's like, well, can you sell it to somebody else? And I said, well, sure. But, normally I get paid when I do stuff like that. And he's like, oh yeah, of course. Go ahead, sell it. And we'll both make money. And so I put it back out there and we sold it for 1.1 million on the MLS.
Wow.
So how do we get this? It's the value, real value is 1.1 million because that's what it sold for with a appraiser finance buyer on the MLS. But how do we get it for 700? Well, we took care of the seller for what he wanted to be taken care of. The number wasn't the thing.
Yeah. He wanted a quick close or whatever he wanted, and you gave it to him.
Yeah. Quick close, and then don't ruffle the feathers of his tenants.
And you didn't.
Yeah. So my challenge back to everybody on the broadcast right now, like, what's your niche? Discover that. Some people, it's probates. They really like, when mom or dad dies, and then they don't like when that mom or dad dies, but they like working with people through that transition.
Yeah.
Okay. Like one of my clients that I get to help her with her marketing, that's what she does. Like, she's the probate queen. So literally we coined her in all of her marketing, the probate queen. And so now she has this niche where people are coming to her because they know she's a probate queen. I got another lady that she works with people that when parents become, basically they have to move to a nursing home, that next phase of life for nursing care living, paying for nursing care living is really complicated. So she figured that whole thing out. She figured out how to buy their property and fund their long-term care. So now that's all the marketing we do for her. She has become like the queen in that area right there. And so I would give the encouragement, don't just run out to Facebook and start typing "we buy houses." This is not going to do anything for you. You might get a couple trickle leads here and there. I would encourage you first, know your niche. Who can you serve better than anybody else in the world? Or who do you want to serve? If you're not there yet, just say, who do I want to serve? Once you know that, now we can have fun. Now we can go to the drawing board and we can start sketching out some ads that can really hit home with those people. Is that making sense so far?
It makes sense to me. I have a question, and this is a good question, you guys who aren't Facebook advertisers yet. On Facebook, real estate is considered a special ad category. So how do you get around that if you're looking for retiring landlords on Facebook, there's no button you push that says, give me the retiring landlords. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that special ad category box that came down like a year ago, one of Facebook's many changes, we just have to check it right now. Technically, we shouldn't, because we're not offering a service of a realtor. We're not violating any fair housing laws or anything like that. But Facebook is driven by a lot of AI. And so they're going to catch if we put a picture of a house or copy that says something about a house or a duplex. So I found it's better just to check it, which then means we lose zip code targeting.
Exactly.
So now we just have to be smarter. Okay. So like when Coca-Cola runs a Super Bowl ad, they don't get zip code targeting. Like, they're just dumping into the marketplace. But if you pay attention to really good ads in the first 5 seconds of the ad, or if it's a written ad, it's the headline, we call out the people that we want.
Hey, landlords.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we have to do. We write ads like they're a Super Bowl ad. We don't get to do zip code targeting, but I can do just as much targeting through my words.
Yeah. And now what I want you folks to get, we're talking to a marketing expert here. This is what Nate has developed, is how to market to these sellers so you can get them calling you, right?
Nailed it. You nailed it. Yep.
Yeah. Instead of you trying to dig them up, because, Nate and I were in the business back when bandit signs was the way to do it. And that's what you put the sign, "We buy houses," on the corner. And you're trying to have them find you that way. But when you're saying, "Hey, landlord," that's catching the person right with their problem, like you said.
Yeah. And when I do that, so like, "Hey, landlord," I'm going to list out, I'm going to take a half hour to an hour quiet time, and I'm going to list out all of the pains that I think that they're going through. And maybe we can do this in the chat now if you guys want to get creative juices. Yeah. So let's pick one outside of landlords, since we hit that one. Let's go probates. So probate is like when mom or dad die and then the property is going from one generation to the next through the court process called probate. What the person that's inheriting that house, like usually they're usually the estate director. They're usually like one sibling in charge of everything that mom and dad had. What do you think is going through their brain? What do you think wakes them up at night?
I got a good one. They don't know how to even do the estate, like they're like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. That's what's going through their head.
I'm overwhelmed. Yeah. What else? Let us know in the chat. Someone that's about to take over a property. We're going to turn these into ads in a moment. You're going to see why we do this exercise. This is going to make your ads killer. Okay. What else does someone that's going through the probate process, what else like makes them cringe or makes them wake up at night thinking about it?
Well, they might be fighting with their brothers and sisters.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean? Because they have to figure this out. And then, it's always there are tax implications. There's a good one, Adam.
Yeah. Nice, Adam. Nice.
Yeah. How much of this do we owe in taxes? How much is it worth? Money. Ryan
says money. Great. Yes. These are good so far. Work to be done on the property. This is from Pamela. Yeah. Yeah. They're thinking about that. Ron says, how will I collect rent from the drug dealers? I hope not. Oh, funny. Eric, nice to see you, man. They're stressed. They don't want to deal with this. It's emotional. Yeah, very emotional. Very emotional. Okay. So now, Adam says, should I sell or should I keep? Yes. Eric says family memories. Yeah, that's a big one. Okay. We got Pamela saying any mortgage left on the property. Yeah. All of these are right answers. Now what we do when we've got this list, so when I do it on my own, I literally I jot all these down and then I ask 2 or 3 people like, hey, what else would be pain points? And then we write them all down. And now I'll take a clean sheet of paper next to my kind of scratch paper and I'll write it how they say it. So as an example, Eric said they're thinking about the memories. They're thinking about the contents of the house. How would they say that? Like I've had some people say, well, I bought a lot of houses that were filled up with memories, boxes and boxes full of stuff. And I remember I walked into one of them with my clean out guys and he's like, what should I do with all the junk? He might call it junk, but do they call it junk?
No.
What do they call it?
Memories.
Yeah, memories. And memories are stuff. That's the 2 best headlines. If you want a killer probate ad to like drive in hundreds of probate sellers in the Twin Cities metro or any metro for that matter, then you're going to start the ad with don't know what to do with mom and dad's stuff? Question mark. That lets you call out the people that you want and it's going to repel everybody else. Everyone else will be like, I don't know what that means. Great. I don't want you. But the person that knows what that means, they're going to look at that and they're going to say, what does this person have to say here? And they'll click on it. In advertising and digital, at least, they call it the click-through rate. So we're constantly looking like when we put out a new ad with a new image and a new headline, what's the click-through rate? Is it being responded to by the market or does the market hate it? In the ones that win all the time, it's when we take time to do the exercise that you guys just went through. So I know I'm getting a little bit granular, but I want to actually give you something you can walk away with tonight. This is the advertising best practice. You want to get off market deals in droves, consistent deals every single week. This is how you do it. You focus on writing the right message that they're going to respond to.
That's really gold, Nate, because then you got at least the right person reading your ad and hopefully clicking the button to have a phone call.
Yeah. Yep. And we get that right person and then we can actually serve them because that's who we are the best in the world at serving as well.
So, okay, now we did the ad or we found a person. And this is where a lot of people get stuck. I have people call me and say, okay, I think I found a house that's down the street or I know somebody or whatever, but they don't know how to go talk to the seller. They don't know what to say. So they maybe found this house, but yikes, now what?
Okay, so how do we talk to the seller? There's 5 parts to it. And is it okay if I do a little screen share action?
Yes, it is. It's okay.
Okay, I'm going to pull this up and then I'll share it over here on Zoom. Okay, So what most people do,
Wait, no, I don't see it.
yeah, I'll
Oh,
here it
okay.
comes. Here we come, right here. Okay,
Okay.
so what most people do, and I'm going to blow this up and I'm going to talk about these sections. What most people do when they get the opportunity to go talk to a seller, whether it's on the phone or if it's in person, they jump into numbers right away. It's just natural. Maybe we're a little bit nervous talking to the seller. Maybe the seller is just pushing for numbers right away. But that's like kissing someone before you've actually had dinner on a first date. And so just remember that analogy, like don't kiss. Even if they're trying to kiss you, you got to slow down a little bit, okay? There are 5 distinct phases to every call. I've listened to thousands of calls. My team does hundreds every single week. I audit them. We do call recording review together. Like we're going through leads and we're like processing leads the way that they're supposed to be processed. And in the course of this journey, through some other mentors, and then what we found on our calls, the ones that close, the ones that go through, we figured out that they're broken into 5 distinct parts. So is it cool if we do a little training on this?
Yes.
Okay. So the very first part of the phone call, this is natural. It's the introduction. I have 4 objectives during the introduction. I want to demonstrate that I'm a normal human being. I'm not crazy. I'm not a lunatic. I want to make sure that they're in a good spot to take the call. I want to make sure that all decision makers are there. If they're not there, so if it's like owned by a husband and wife, if they're not there, then I'm going to push the call back to when they both can be there. And then I want to let them know what the agenda is for the call. So pretty straightforward. That's the introduction. Discovery, this is the second phase. This is where people get stuff out of order. Usually after people do the small talk stuff, then they jump straight into numbers. Don't do it. Got to hold back. Okay. What we want to know is the 7 beliefs that a seller has. We have to know these in order to sculpt the right offer.
Mm-hmm.
LeAnn, you're a pro. So there's so many different ways to do the deal. A lot of people newly getting into real estate, they don't realize it. Like we practice 17 different ways to buy the house here.
Right.
And you probably have 25 more than that. So in order for you to get creative with offer structure, you have to know these 7 beliefs. So what are the beliefs, Nate? Here they are. You have to know why they're doing this. It's not just as simple as a number. You need to understand what the situation is. You need to understand the context, what's going on. You have to understand any challenges that they're facing right now. You have to understand any doubt that they have. Specifically, the doubt is, why don't you just clean this place up and sell it yourself? I want to hear them say, well, I don't want to do that. I don't have the cash to do that. My uncle Jimmy, he did that once and he tried to rent it and it was a nightmare. I want to hear those words out loud. I don't want to assume anything because everyone has a different backstory, different experience. I need to understand that. So I'm going to ask that question. Okay. I also want to know why and if they've hired a realtor. And if not, why not? And no, I'm not afraid. Sometimes people ask me, well, Nate, aren't you afraid you're going to push them to a realtor? If that serves them the most, I certainly want that. I do not want to do anything that's not in their best interest or mine. I want to be totally open book. Like if it's better for them to go to a realtor, I'm going to be the first person to say it. I'm going to say, you need to go talk to, I just did it down in Nashville, Tennessee. Had a lady that came into me. She was way too far past the redemption period. She needed to list it. She had equity. I said straight out, her name was Cynthia. I said, Cynthia, you need to call a realtor. I got a realtor I'll connect you with. They're going to best serve you. She's blown away. But so like, I'm not asking the question to like push them away, but I want to know and understand like, hey, have you considered this? Okay. The next one is the consequence if they don't take action now. Hey, if we're not able to structure a deal, then what happens? I want to know, like, how far is it? I'm in the middle right now. My wife really wants to have a juice operation. Like we like drinking juices and all that kind of stuff. And we first called this franchise company that does juices. And they were trying to sell us a franchise. It was around $400,000 franchise fee plus the build up. And then I asked the lady on the phone, I said, hey, by chance, do you happen to have any, like I'm used to buying stuff that's kind of broken and fixing it. Do you happen to have any franchisees that like, maybe they need to sell? And she's like, well, actually, we do have one and I'm not really supposed to talk about it, but since you're asking and they're like at the end of their rope, yeah, let me put you in contact. And so we called them and we start talking. And what this all came down to, I went through these 7 beliefs, every single one of them. I talked to husband and wife so I can understand the entire playing field. And right now we're in the middle of this, so I don't know what will happen yet. But we're at the point now where if we give them $50,000 and the landlord signs off on us taking over their spot, then we now own their business that they paid $400 for. Okay.
Wow.
Now, why? How? Well, I didn't go in and try to kiss them. I asked questions. Okay. So continuing on these beliefs, we need to know about debts on the property. We need to know if there's tax bills or outstanding contractor bills. We also need to understand their support structure. Who's the real decision makers? A lot of people just think about like husband and wife, but usually a seller, there's usually someone else, a daughter, a nephew. Oh, my uncle is an attorney. He's going to have to review. Okay, great. I want to talk to the uncle. I want to make sure that the support structure is there. Okay. So that's the real point of discovery. Okay. We don't want to jump into making offers. And then we can go into the pitch. This is a non-offer pitch. All that we're doing is we're explaining our process. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, our process works like this. We're going to go through an inspection, blah, 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 whatever your process is. And then eventually we get to payday. Okay. So it's still not making an offer. It's just going through your process. And then number 4 is when we actually get to make an offer. We're doing it after we get all this information from the seller, then we start to make an offer. So it's very, very different than what most people do. Most people go in, they try to make the offer right away, and then they just don't get to go very far. They either got the door shut in their face or they didn't present the right offer because they didn't know the right information about the seller's situation. And then phase 5 is just handling objections. If you'll do this, if you'll commit to going through all 5 phases like this, your conversion rate with sellers, it will go up. It will double, triple, quadruple. I don't know where you're at right now, but I know that for us on our calls, it went up dramatically when we started really segmenting the call and really understanding the seller situation.
Totally, because with all those questions, yeah, then you know what offer to make, or even if you want to make an offer, otherwise you're throwing numbers. I like your analogy to don't kiss before you first. It's kind of like online dating, you guys. You got to meet first, folks.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So is this helpful? Like, I want to make sure I'm delivering the right stuff for the group.
Somebody put something in the chat there.
In the chat, is this helpful to go this deep on? Like, if you want to stay higher level, we can. Okay. Helpful. Cool. All right. Yep. Cool. That's
great, because I think that's a critical thing. They finally got to talk to that seller down the street and they said the wrong thing, and then they didn't build the trust. This is all about first some trust, that rapport and the trust. And then people will review all those details once they trust you.
Absolutely. I remember I recently bought 9149 North 49th Street over in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's a market that I really, really love. This property, the seller's name was Kong. He called off of one of our ads. He's like, "Hey, you pay me full price?" And I'm like, "Well, I've never seen the property, so I don't know." He's like, "Well, I will only accept full price. Will you pay me full price?" And I'm like, "Well, could I come on site and take a look at it?" And he's like, "I just want you to pay me full price." And I said, "Tell you what, I haven't been there, but I can tell you within 10 minutes of being there, I'm sure we'll be heading down the right path together. Can I come over and take a look?" And he's like, "Okay." So I go up to the house. I remember driving and drove my Jeep over, get to the house. He's standing on the front porch waiting, and he's got his arms out like this. And I'm like, "Oh boy, this is going to be fun." I walked up to him. I reached my hand out. I don't know if that's COVID friendly or not, but I reached my hand out, shook his hand, and I'm like, "Hey, Kong, I'm Nate. We spoke on the phone. Hey, just so you know, like, if this doesn't work, it's totally okay. I even have someone that I think I can refer to you that might even be a better fit than I am. So it's totally cool if it doesn't work. Is it cool if we just, go through all the information together, and then I can send you on your way to whoever might be best for you if I'm not best?" And I watched this weight kind of melt off of him. It was like he thought he had to negotiate with me. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, you might refer somebody to me?" And he was like friendly with me. Next thing I know, he's introducing me to his wife. I meet his 4 daughters. We spend 45 minutes. We walk the property inside and out. We sit down at the dining room table. Okay. This is where the real conversation typically starts. And at the dining room table, he's openly and willingly pulling out his mortgage statements. He's showing me that he's behind. And then I start asking questions like, hey, have you thought, just like I showed you guys, like I'm going through the 7 beliefs with him. I didn't get to do it on the phone with him because he was too short, but I'm in person now. Hey, what about the realtor? Nah, ain't going to work. Why won't it work? Well, because I already had him out here. And for what they were going to list it for, it barely covers my mortgage. I might even have to pay in. Ah, I see. Okay. What about another investor? Have you talked to any other investors? Yeah, I talked to a bunch of them. That's why I was skeptical about you coming. Like, okay, well, what happened with the other investors? Why didn't you take their offer? And he's like, because they all wanted to buy it for less than my mortgage amount. And I'm not going to take a loss on this. No way. I got too much money into this. I'm like, okay, well, what do you really want out of this whole thing, Kong? Help me understand that. Like, what are you really looking for? He says, Nate, I lost my job. My brother's got me a new job in another city. I got to go to the new city, but I got to have enough money to pack my bags and get to the new city. And I got to pay a security deposit there. And I got to have that. And I'm like, well, how much are we talking? He's like, well, like 7 to 10 grand. And I say, okay, well, if I could help you get the 7 grand, and then I just take over from here, like literally I take over everything. You don't have to worry about coming back to the house again. I'll just take it over. I'll clean up the place. I'll either rent it or I'll sell it. I'll just take over from here. Would you be open to that? And he leans in and he's like, you'll get me 7 to 10 grand. And I said, I'm not saying 10, I'm saying 7. If I can get you 7, are you good? He looks over at his wife and he starts speaking with her in another language. It's a Hmong family. And then she looks at me and she asks me a couple of questions and then they start talking to one another again. And he looks back and he's like, yeah, we can do that. I walked out with a signed purchase agreement that night. I took over his property, like kind of to fast forward on the story, but I took over his property and I took it over for his mortgage value. His mortgage value was $126,000 plus or minus $1,000 or two, 126. I then went to my real estate agent and I asked him to run comps in the area. And he told me that it's worth about $200,000 when it's in excellent condition. Now the house has had wear and tear. It needs a full paint job. It needs flooring, stuff like that. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I got to put 10, 15 into this place. But if I put it into it, like this is a pretty good property. Market rent is $1,800 a month. I take over this guy's house at $126K mortgage value. Like you guys tell me in the chat, if you had a seller let you come in for 7 grand to take over their house that's worth almost $200,000 and their mortgage is only 126, would you do that deal? Would you take over? Robbie says, I'll buy it. Okay, good. So, okay. So I think we're hanging with the right crowd here. Adam says, absolutely. Yeah. Pamela says, yes, absolutely. Okay, good. Right people here. You got good people, good Minnesota people. Okay, so I take over. I sign the purchase agreement with him. It's still subject to inspection at this point, but I already know in my mind, as long as all the numbers check out, like this is a done deal. I go to closing, give him his 7 grand. It all goes through title. I take over the property. I do what's called a contract for deed. Okay. Those of you that are newer in real estate, don't worry. Just talk to LeAnn. She's an expert at this. LeAnn's been through the real estate cycle. She can walk you through that. But I do a contract for deed. I don't sign his debt. I'm not doing that. But I agree that I'm going to make the payments every month to cover the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance. Okay. That's about $1,000 a month between the 3. This thing will rent out for $1,800 a month. Like I know I'm good. Okay. So immediately I send my father-in-law over there to go in there with some contractors and get the place cleaned up. They do a full paint job. They shampoo some of the carpets. They replace others. They put in some new appliances. I'm about 12 grand out of pocket, okay, for that whole thing with my father-in-law. And then I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, the rent on this is going to be great, passive income, but I should just test the market just to see. So I called the real estate agent back and I said, hey, can you list it? We list it first day on market, pops for $189,000. Boom, first day, okay? And then fast forward 45 days later, the buyer closes it out. I get a wire back for somewhere around $45,000 to my bank account for putting up 7 grand and then 12 grand, something like that, total between the two. So that's how that deal shook out. How did it come to fruition though? This is the important part of the story. It's not just the numbers, like the numbers are cool, but how did it come? I was willing to sit down with the man and really listen to what he needed.
Yep.
The cash buyers that made the offers before, they didn't care. They gave him the good old, what I call the punch in the gut offer. It's like when you give a lowball offer and you just shut your lips, and they did that to him. He felt insulted. He didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to think creatively about his situation. Okay. I listened more than the realtor as well, because he told the realtor, I don't have the money to clean the place up. So the realtor couldn't help him. And so I got the deal. Made really good profit on it. And I remember the day that I ended up selling it in the end, I text Kong and I said, congratulations, your mortgage has now been paid off. You should check your bank statement tomorrow. And then he texted me back a couple of days later, how happy he was. He's left us a referral, and all kinds of goodness came from it. But the way that these work is that you really have to be attuned to the seller, really serve them at the highest level.
That's spot on, Nate, and great way to teach us the story, because really it all started when you got his shoulders to go down and he opened up to you, and then you were able to get in there and find out what he really needed was $7,000. And that's what's great about working with people. We understand real estate strategies enough to know there's a lot of ways to get a deal done, many, many ways of creative financing, but you had to know what he needed. And
Yeah.
cash wasn't it. Like you said, the people with the cash, it wasn't what he needed. That didn't get him to the next town.
Yeah, they struck out cash offers and the listing potential because he just didn't have the money to inject. And
yeah,
so us as investors, if we just pay attention and serve them, there's so many deals out there. Like I know it's difficult right now because it's a seller's market. So I know there's competition, but I assure you, if you adjust a couple things in your business and open up to the possibility of running some ads, number one, and then really serving sellers, there is an endless amount of opportunity out there. Endless. Like we're getting too many opportunities right now for us to take. We cannot take them all. I can't even wholesale them fast enough on our end. We just don't have a big enough team for that.
Well, I have a question, because now you're just talking about something in Nashville, how do you even go look at it?
Yeah. So the only, like we're totally virtual, especially since the whole pandemic kind of came down on people. What we found in the height of the pandemic, nobody wanted us to come to their house.
Right.
It was always like, no, can you call me? And then we just learned how to get around and work the business that way. So like, we're not doing walkthroughs, not unless I'm going to buy it and hold it for me. If it's going to be a wholesale deal, I'm going to let my end buyer walk it during their inspection contingency period.
So you don't even have to walk through it.
No, we send the sellers a little video on how to do photos of your house. So they watch that little video, and most of them nowadays can just snap pictures, the kitchen, the bathroom, the roof, the basement, the furnace, the mechanicals, and then they send them back. And then if we're going to wholesale it, we use those photos to push it out. And then our buyer gets an inspection, and during the inspection, they'll really size up if it's for them or not.
Yeah. Yeah. You've morphed into, the pandemic has changed things, and we've had to adapt our businesses or where we work. And, virtual is actually great because you can do this in any market.
Yeah. And Ravi asked about title issues. Ravi, if that's specifically on the contract for deed side, you still have your title company run full title report. Like, you're not buying blind. You have them run a full title report, and then they tell you, hey, it's clean. And then they file for you the contract for deed.
Yeah.
Don't worry there. Like, we paid for title insurance and everything. We closed it through a title company.
Always close it through a title company.
Yes. Good advice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what about low inventory? There's low inventory. Has that affected you in finding sellers?
So if I were like purely shopping MLS, then it would, but I don't. The only MLS properties that we're going after right now are the auction ones, because a lot of people have a fear of auctions, big earnest money checks, limited inspection period, sometimes no inspection period. And I'm comfortable with those. I don't recommend you start at those if you're new in investing, but like, I'm comfortable with those. So they're less competition on the auction properties.
Mhm.
But everything else, 90% of what we do, it's just off market. We drive leads to us, drive opportunity to us, have conversations with them. And I'll tell you, 15 out of 16 don't work out. They just don't. But 1 out of 16 does. And I'm willing to talk to 16 sellers to get one deal. Totally am.
How big is your team these days?
So on acquisitions, it's 2 ladies, and
Oh.
those 2 ladies, they dominate. One of them, she pumps out 2 to 3 contracts per week, and the other one gets at least 1 contract per week. And then on our wholesale side, because we sell a lot of the properties that come through our system, we've got 2 people over there that sell properties too.
And it could be anywhere in the US, right?
Yeah. We try to stick to our core markets. The only time that we take these random deals is if it like kind of falls in our lap, which sometimes deals do. But for advertising and for like mental sanity, it's easier to be in one spot. So like Milwaukee is like our home base, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then we also buy Florida because I'm here. And then these other random ones kind of fall in our lap.
Okay, so you're not just dart shooting in Ohio and so you know the Milwaukee market, so it's easier for you to comp those properties. You know the market.
Yeah, we know it. And then when our buyer, or if we're going to keep it, if they're like, well, hey, the foundation's bad, I know the foundation contractor that can fix it.
Yeah.
Hey, this one, it's in a flood zone. We need to get an insurance quote. I know the exact agent that can get an insurance quote quickly. So yeah, it's much easier to focus.
That's it's much easier to be profitable when you focus, because otherwise you're too scattered. Great advice there too. So do you have a main criteria of what you're looking for in a house? Not really. You're looking for that specific niche seller.
Yeah, it's mostly about the I like how you say it. You say it properly, niche. I say niche. That sounds better. So yeah, it's mostly the seller, but like deep down, what are we looking for? We search every property on a crime rating basis first. We won't touch anything in like rough zones. I just don't do it anymore. I used to, but I learned the hard way too many times. It's just not worth the headaches. You buy a property and the air conditioning unit grows legs overnight. Like I dealt with that one too many times and I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And so we only buy properties and only wholesale properties in areas that we would hold long-term. So we screen the address first, crime ratings first. Yeah. And then what we hold nowadays, I really love. Something really unique has happened because of the pandemic. A lot of people stopped doing international travel. So what do you think happened domestically? Domestic travel went up. People are going to cabins, they're going to lakes, they're going to mountains. And so the short-term rental game, it went up over 25% year over year in growth, rent growth. The long-term rentals did not go up by 25%. I mean, some markets went up 10, 12%. Most markets went up 5%. But the short-term rentals went up by 25%. That's a huge arbitrage. If you can secure a property in a rural area that's still vacation destination and it's a good, unique experience for people, and you rent it out on short-term rental sites, it's a huge opportunity. So we have a fund that does that now. Like we take in money, we go buy properties, we clean them up, we furnish them, and then we rent short-term rentals. It's the most profitable thing that I know of that we can do in this market cycle.
I did a live stream on short term not too long ago, and you're spot on. And, I'll just tell you something about me personally. I just bought an RV and now I'm buying a few more and renting out RVs. It's similar to the short term rental business, only mine are on the move.
Wow. Are you renting them through those, like the apps?
Yeah. It's just like Airbnb, but it's outdoorsy.
Yeah. I love it. I love that, LeAnn. Cool.
So, real estate can, once you know this business, And, like I said, I can apply all my knowledge right there because it's the same as renting houses.
Yeah. Yep. It's almost identical.
Yeah. The short-term business. Yeah, that's great. So, that's one of the benefits of having business like Nate does is he can cherry pick the cherries, that come across his desk, and then you wholesale the ones that just don't really work for you, but they work for somebody else who maybe is going to own or occupy and fix and flip, or, there's a lot of different people out there who they do work for.
Yeah. Like we sort of cherry picked this one. We put it up for a little bit, but it's a 38 unit that I didn't get it through my marketing. Somebody else got it through the marketing that we taught him how to do, but he brought it back to us. It's a 38 unit building in Lexington, Kentucky, which is like thoroughbred horse capital of the world.
Yeah.
From the Kentucky Derby. And this property rents haven't gone up in 4 years on it. They've flatlined the rents. And so there's so much room to grow. And I'm like, oh, and so this one we're cherry picking. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's great about having students. Okay. So let's see what you haven't answered. What do you do, Nate, to stay on top of the game? I know you have a full team and all these students. And what do you do to stay on top of the game and direct your thoughts and your mindset?
Number one, I hire really good coaches like you. And I can say that because you and I have got to work together a lot over the last 10 years. If you look at any other industry, and sorry, my dog's going crazy. I office at home. I work at home, proud of it, love it.
Me too.
So if you look at any other industry where people are at the top of their game, basketball players, like I just watched on Saturday night a documentary on Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. And he gives all of his credit to Phil Jackson and a couple of other coaches that he had early in his life. Plus he had hard work ethic. But between those, that's what shaped who Michael Jordan is. It was his college basketball coach that Michael walked up to one day and said, I want to be the best. And his coach looked at him and said, Michael, you're nowhere near it today. If you want to get there, you're going to have to work twice as hard as you are right now. And Michael went home that night and he's like, what? I can't believe this guy says this to me, but it charged him up inside. And he came back to the next day and he said, okay, coach, what do I got to do? And then the coach built a plan for him and Michael executed that plan over and over and over again. By his second year in college, he became the best player on the team by far. Why? Well, he had someone that could see further down the road than he could. He had a coach to help shape that. So that's the number one thing that I do, LeAnn. Right now, I'm in 2 different coaching programs right now. Like I've got good mentors that are mentoring me. I will never stop. When I'm done with these, or if I feel like I've outgrown for whatever reason, I'm going to get another one because I know that I can't, like if I'm going to keep up here full of the right fuel, I got to be putting the fuel in. So that's the number one thing.
I second that because I have 5 different coaching programs that I'm participating in. Yeah. Masterminds.
Yeah. We were mutually in the TNF one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so there we go.
It just is something that helps me operate at a fully different level. Yeah. Keeps my energy going and creativity. So, okay. As an entrepreneur, how about any other, because that's the other thing about people who are getting into real estate investing, it's a business, and you're suddenly an entrepreneur in that part of your business, even if you still have your other job. Any big entrepreneurial ahas to share?
Yeah, the biggest one is that if you really want to run it like a business and not just a hobby, then you have to have a marketing arm of the business. And it's not just something that you just like outsource and it goes away. That'd be like outsourcing kissing your spouse. It's like, if you're going to have a good family, good intimacy, like you don't outsource certain parts of your relationship. The same thing is true with marketing. You might hire some people that are really good at what they do, but you need to oversee it. You got to be involved with it. You cannot let marketing go. And I tried early on, I'm going to hire this person. I'm just going to give it all to them. And every time that I had a dip in the business, it was because I was trying that. And then when I finally said, you know what, I got to learn how to do marketing. Doesn't mean I have to sit on Facebook and learn how to run a Facebook ad, but I got to know how to sit down and draft what the pain points are of my probate seller. I got to take a certain amount of ownership of the niche that I'm going to serve. And it's when you really like niche down, you take that ownership, it becomes really easy. And then the business can just soar. If my wife and I take over this juice shop, which it's heading down the probable road right now, but if we take over that juice shop, like I was in the store I talk with the owners. I talk with the corporate office. I've looked through all the financials. I know exactly what the winners are doing and what the losers are doing. The winners they're marketing. They're spending money on Facebook. They're spending money on YouTube. They're driving traffic. They're bringing in opportunity. The real estate business is no different. We have to bring in opportunity, bring the sellers into us off market, have conversations with them, serve them. It will work out as long as you're doing it the right way and you follow practices like we've been teaching here tonight.
That is so true. And then the other thing is systems. Even take the juice business. There's a certain way that juice has to be made to taste right, or, all of that, all of our businesses need systems, and marketing is one piece of the system. Because if you market, then you get all these leads and then you don't know what to do with them. That's a problem too. So you need the rest, you need the whole, like he had a chart. You need all the parts of the chart, not just one column working, right?
Yeah. Like getting organized. I'll go back to the other point that we talked about a little bit ago, but having the right coach to show you the path. Like I resisted it my first year. So this is going back to 2007. 2007, I was trying to figure out real estate all by myself. And it's, you can go through YouTube University all you want, but there's never a complete guide there. There's never someone there to give you feedback. There's never someone there to listen to your call and then tell you, hey, you botched that. You got to do it this way, and then you're going to win. YouTube University will never do that. Like when I finally realized that I need someone to help me with that, I put up money that I didn't have. I called my brother. I begged him. He said, I'll give you part of it. I called a kid from high school, barely knew him, but I knew of him from high school. He gave me part of it. I told him that on my first deal, I'd pay him back with interest. And then I had to put the rest of it on a Visa card. Didn't want to do it, but I did it because I knew that I needed it. And I'll tell you, from that day forward, I went for 11 months struggling to try to get a deal. I invested into mentorship and I immediately got that property, 1104 Cook Avenue. Immediately was able to take off and go. And then the journey's never stopped for me. Now that I realize that I can get a shortcut just by paying someone, which back then was a lot of money, but now I realize it's a little bit of money. In the grand scheme of things, it's a little bit of money.
Yeah.
You pay for years of experience to go faster. Now I will never go back to the other way.
The first time I hired this one coach, it was a $50,000, it wasn't the first coach I ever hired, but the big one, right? And I was like, yikes. But, and I lost sleep, and you know what? But I did what he told me, and I earned that back just like he promised.
And you have that
skill, and more
skill for life.
Now. Right. And now I know exactly. It was invaluable, but it was very, very scary. Just like talking to a seller is scary the first time, but the second and the third and the fourth, it gets easier all along.
Yeah. And I apologize. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but it's so important. That's why I bring it up. So, all right, what do you got next?
Now we're closing up here on our time, but I want to share with you, I have a slide here of how you can contact Nate. Let me find the darn thing. Okay. I think I got it right here. There, I got here we go. Can you see it?
I see your desktop. There's a person running on the beach.
Oh, what happened? Okay. Let me, yeah, we all want that, don't we? I'm sharing the wrong screen. That's why. Here we go. Here's how you can contact Nate. It's nate@homeinvest.com. Okay. And
that works.
Okay. And if someone wants information about your social media blueprint program, how do they do that?
Yeah. So it's interesting timing right now. We just put together, people kept asking over and over again, well, Nate, hey, how are you driving these leads in? How does this work? We actually put together a free 5-day challenge. It's called Deals on Demand Challenge. And so if you'd like to jump into that, then you could either email, just like LeAnn said, just put in the subject line LeAnn so that I know and I can reply with it, or go to challenge.socialmediablueprint.com.
Okay, I'm putting this in the chat. Challenge.
.socialmediablueprint.com just make sure on one of the emails somewhere, you reply to it and you tell me, hey, Nate, I connected with you through LeAnn. I want to add that to my system on this end because LeAnn and I, sometimes we do fun trainings and I'd like to include her whenever if we do a surprise training for you guys, like I want to include her. So write LeAnn on any reply so then I can tag that in my system.
Thank you. So challenge at, oh, I did it wrong. I put challenge dot.
Yep. Challenge.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Yep.
All right. There you guys, you got it in the chat there. And I just want to thank you, Nate. That was really great. We got some juicy training in there of how to talk to a seller and what it takes to build a business. And it's been great to catch up with you. And one other thing I just want to share, anybody, if you're looking for investing here in the Twin Cities market, you can schedule a free strategy session with me right there. You can go to LeAnnRiley.com, really is the easiest way. And there's a million buttons you can push to schedule a strategy session. And then we can, it's really about what we do is get on a Zoom call, just like we are here. And we do exactly what you're saying at the kitchen table. We ask those questions so that I need to know where you're at. And then I can tell you who can help you and how. And sometimes it's like you need, this isn't the time to sell your house. I'm like Nate, we're pretty honest and we're going to actually tell you the answer that's the best for you. And it's okay if I send someone to another resource. And I've sent people over to, if you're over there and you want to wholesale or you want to, find your own deals, then yeah, good luck doing it on your own. You need to take a program so you can figure it out, It's a lot easier. So glad we can help you here with real estate investing. So thanks again for joining us. Real Estate Investing Made Simple. And thank you, Nate.
Thank you, LeAnn. God bless everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.